The last day of road racing ahead of the time trial on Sunday, stage 20 of La Vuelta was spectacular indeed. Beautiful too, the home of our race director, and he chose one heck of a course. Climbing straight out of the back door, not categorised you understand, but some real incline tests, and with over 4,200 metres of altitude gain on the day, and the categorised climbs coming in the second half, it was going to draw a breakaway, and a spectacular one we had. Well, they posted such a phenomenal gap of nearly 12 minutes, everyone believed they would go all the way. Well, the chase was a half-hearted one from Jumbo-Visma, and so it was that Ineos Grenadiers came to the fore, and slowly but surely as the mountains points went the way of Michael Storer to make him certain of that King of the Mountains jersey, the gap was closing. Well, with 78 kilometres and more to go, Ineos Grenadiers were sacrificing themselves. Splits were happening, there was riders all over the mountain, and even Ineos Grenadiers themselves were losing out in terms of manpower. Don't forget, 3 riders down coming into today. Egan Bernal was the man who was calling for pace, but it was Adam Yates that was setting it. Away he went, and it got very selective, the chase. And in so doing, almost automatically, it closed the gap on the break, which itself was fracturing. The red jersey group still included Bernal and Roglic, and Bernal himself was setting out. It was a tough day. Well, the tempo had been set by the demands of Egan Bernal, but ultimately he was to be something of a loser on the day. Adam Yates struck out, Roglic wanted to follow. This was a move that Bernal did not chase down. Mass was there as well ultimately, and we were setting ourselves up for a grandstand finale. Well, this group with Bernal started to drift back and accepted Miguel Angel Lopez as part of its membership. Ultimately, Lopez was to step off the bike on this day, but one rider from the break was determined to take control of it. Away he went on a major descent off our Category 1 test, the Mugas. The Alto de Prado beckoned, and of course ultimately the Castro de Hervé. Well, riders seemed to have lost much of the heart for the chase, and some were setting up. There was a regroupement down there, but big gaps were starting to show, and in the virtual classification, Roglic leading Mass, Haig onto the podium, Yates in 4th place, and Miguel Angel Lopez dropping like a stone, ultimately, as we said, off the bike. Out front, Gibbons was giving it his all, but ramps of 14% and more were starting to take a toll, and when we came to our final climb, a significant section of 2 kilometres was waiting to hurt him. Still brave, and still with a margin of 1:15, he pushed on. On his tail, out of a bunch of favourites now, Bizkarra, rolling the dice for the last time, hoping for a Spanish victory which has evaded Spain and Spanish riders throughout all of the Grand Tours this year. Yates bridged over to Bizkarra and went for it. Haig now alone, having burnt out Gino Mader and indeed Marc Pardon, who'd been in the break. And what a quartet this turned out to be. The favourites for the race, and in fact the 1, 2, 3, 4 at the end of the day as far as the overall standing is concerned, and they were charging over those inclines. Haig, the man that was suffering, and finally they caught Gibbons. Well, for all intents and purposes, with 3.4 kilometres to go, we thought that the winner would come certainly from this group, either Gibbons himself or one of the 4 favourites. Well, we thought without the sprightly nature of a few others. Clément Chapouzin left it very, very late after Bizkarra had rolled the dice earlier, and he went for it. 1,700 metres to go. Roglic and co. just looked on at his back wheel, wondering who would take up the chase and, in so doing, potentially lead somebody else to glory. Chapouzin emptied himself, and when he reached the final crest, he couldn't quite believe it. You had to have heart on this day, and he had plenty. Roglic chasing on for some bonus seconds to extend his lead. Adam Yates coming home in 3rd, ahead of Mass and Haig. Chris Hamilton, who was part of a 3-man section of that breakaway, coming home next. But some big gaps there were. and AG2R Citroën finally got themselves a stage win. Boy, had they deserved it. They'd done so much work in this race, and now finally a stage win to their name. It was a wonderful day of racing. Chapeau to Chapouzin for never giving up. Roglic, Yates, Mas, Haig, Hamilton, Biscara, Gibbons, Maida, who moved into the white jersey, and De Tier. So Primož Roglic it is that leads this race, going into the grand finale, the time trial, to Santiago de Compostela. An enhanced margin of 2 minutes and 38 over Enric Mas. Jack Haig in third place ahead of Adam Yates, and the new leader of the white jersey competition, Gino Maida, who's done so much work for Jack Haig to help him onto that podium. King of the Mountain, it will be Michael Storer with no mountains points tomorrow. He just has to ride through the course. Wonderful result for him, as well as 2 stage wins for himself and 1 for Bardet for that Team DSM. Taking a bow, Gino Maida, you're going to see a lot more of him. Overtakes Egan Bernal in the Young Riders competition, and indeed leads it by a margin of 3 minutes and 24. That was impressive for an impressive rider. And so to stage 21, Santiago de Compostela beckons. It's a wonderful destination, top and tailed by a race between cathedrals this year and a time trial to decide all of the final placings. 33.8 kilometres in total, slight lumpy course to it, and Roglic the king in waiting. So the mighty cathedral beckons as our finishing point tomorrow. Say your prayers for everybody. A wonderful race this has been, and it will be the cherry on the cake as they take on the battle against the clock. We'll see you then.